Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this video, and in this video I'm going to talk about the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox 720 or the Xbox Pulse or whatever you want to call it, the possibility of an Apple console. And but first let's talk about what most people think. Analysts and people in the industry or whatever seem to think that 2014 is going to be the year that Microsoft go first and announce a new console. Here are my thoughts. I don't think it'll be a new console. I think it'll be like the Xbox 360 Plus or some bullshit like that. It'll come with a Blu-ray drive. I've been doing a little bit of research about Blu-ray, and it's not... I don't believe it's Sony owned. A company does own it, but I don't think it's actually Sony itself, so that'll be fine for Microsoft to use, hopefully. If it's Sony owned, then that'll be a problem. We'll get in that a little bit later. I think it'll just come with a new disc drive. That's about it. That's all Microsoft need, because if you look at games nowadays, the only problem we're seeing with the Xbox is that you have, for instance, with LA Noire, the thing comes on 3 discs. And while that's not a bad thing, it's just that these games are becoming more popular now. You've got a few games now, Rage is like 22 gig, Battlefield 3 is supposed to come on 2 discs. So it would be just more convenient to put a new drive in there, and there's no reason to update the box at this point. This is how I'm envisioning it, because if you look at the PlayStation 3 with all its power, no developer has come, you know, Naughty Dog has probably come the closest to actually using that hardware the best of its ability. So what's the point of adding all this RAM and processor and graphics card and whatever if no one's going to use it? And that's why I say on my Twitter all the time that game developers and game publishers are lazy, because it's a lot of work to make a LA Noire, to an Uncharted or a Heavy Rain, you know, and all the money that they put into it, hundreds of millions of dollars, and some of these games are in development for 6 years. I mean, look at LA Noire. You know, but most of the games have been lucky because they've had that one gimmick. You know, for instance, Little Big Planet has got the customization. It doesn't bring anything new to the platforming genre, and it brings that amazing customization, level creatability or whatever you want to call it, and sharing with friends. But that took a while to come out. It was supposed to be originally a downloadable game actually, and you know, LA Noire is the same. They had that big facial thing, which is good, but it costs a lot of money. Now, if the Xbox was capable of doing what the PlayStation is capable of doing, just think, gamers and people in the industry alike would be like, well, now that they're on equal terms, and if it's a multi-platform game, they don't have to code to the lowest common denominator, which is why multi-platform games 9 times out of 10 look better on an Xbox, because it's made for an Xbox and then ported over. If they're both on on the same level in terms of power, then why couldn't every game be like Uncharted? Why couldn't every game be like God of War, Heavy Rain, and look that good and be that good? You know, what's stopping Epic or Bungie, even though they're not doing it anymore, but Rockstar, you know, what's stopping them from doing whatever? And game publishers, well, especially Activision and EA to name a few, would be like, no, we're not going to spend all that money. Because look at Duke Nukem, that spent all that money and that flopped. You know, but games like Dragon Age, Homefront, Red Dead Redemption, Mass Effect, Assassin's Creed, you would expect it to be like Uncharted, because both systems are capable. And especially the PC, if it's on that, then that's capable of anything plus. You know, it's ridiculous. And that's, I think, is a huge problem when they finally, because game developers don't have the time and the money and the resources to make an Uncharted all the time. Could you imagine if basketball games and FIFA games had to be, you know, look really good? It would, you know, it would be ridiculous. So that's why I don't think we need a big upgrade, but I think we need a Blu-ray, or Microsoft thinks they need a Blu-ray, and I'll tell you why. Because if you've been living under a rock, you haven't noticed that game console owners, developers, or whatever you want to say, Microsoft and Sony, are like, well, it does games. Why can't it do television? Why can't it do Blu-ray? Why can't it do DVDs? Why can't it do Netflix? Why can't it do ESPN? So your Xbox and your PlayStation, they want it to be the only box you have underneath or above your television. They don't want you to have TiVo, they don't want you to have cable, they don't want you to have this, they want you to run the whole thing, your whole entertainment system, through the Xbox or the PlayStation. And that's why they've partnered with Netflix and ESPN and UFC and all this other kind of stuff, which is bullshit, because that's for the people in the US only. Here in Australia we get Foxtel, which we have to fucking pay an arm and a leg for, and that's just normal programming. We don't get to say, you know what, Netflix, I might watch da-da-da-da-da-da. No, you have to go by their programming. So it's essentially the same as cable or pay television. But it goes through the Xbox and fucking destroys your internet, unless you're with Big Pond. So that's what they're trying to do, and that's why I hate that. I mean, if I was in the States and I was getting ESPN and Netflix and all this other kind of stuff, then great. But I'm not, so I don't want to see that. But that's back to the Blu-ray thing. Well, the PlayStation can do Blu-ray in 3D. They never tell anyone about it, but they can do it. They never... I mean, there was a... I didn't know that the PlayStation 3 could do 3D. I knew it could do Blu-ray, obviously, but I didn't know it could do 3D. It can do 3D. They're not going to tell you about it, but it can. But the Xbox can do DVD. It can't do Blu-ray. So that's quite, you know, and since the movie industry has gone, you know what, Blu-ray works, so let's go with Blu-ray. There's no room for an Xbox or Microsoft disc if they can't get the rights to Blu-ray, which would be horrible for them. But that's what I think. In terms of Apple console, I don't think it'll happen. I think they'll have an Apple TV 2 or whatever the fuck they're up to now that can have apps and stuff like that, and maybe a controller or something. But I don't think it'll be a full-fledged gaming console. But in terms of the next generation, it'll either be a really small step forward or a really big step forward. And I hope it is a small step forward, and it probably will be. And I don't think Sony have to worry about doing anything. Sony have just made profit last year off the PlayStation 3 after investing billions of dollars into it. So, you know, they're not ready. They're not gonna, Sony will never make the first move. They'll have to wait for Microsoft, which apparently is going to happen in 2014, 3 years from now. But, you know, a lot could happen in 3 years, so I'm looking forward to it nonetheless. So, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think? When is the new Xbox and the new PlayStation coming, and what features will they have? I think it'll just be a small upgrade with more entertainment services, such as YouTube's, more exclusivity with the Hulu and the Netflix, whatever the fuck. So that's my thoughts. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, rate, comment, and subscribe. Au revoir.